Hi, I'm Joseph Lewis, and I write adventures. And in today's video, I'd like to talk about some common mistakes that I see in adventure writing and that I'd like to draw your attention to. So let's talk about some of those mistakes. Before we get started, I'd like to bring up two caveats. The first is that I'm not going to show you any examples of mistakes or things that I'm calling mistakes because I'm a writer and I don't want to be calling out another writer or criticizing their product, just as I wouldn't want them to be criticizing mine. We have critics for that. So I just think that's good sportsmanship, so I'm not going to be naming names. And number two, caveat, the mistakes that I'm about to describe are just mistakes in my opinion. There's no objective truth about what is a mistake or not a mistake in adventure writing. So everything here is just Joe's opinion, for whatever that's worth. Which brings me to the first type of mistake that I want to talk about, which is not a writing mistake, but I think it's more of a life mistake, which is that when we try a new food, hear a new song, watch a new movie, I believe it is a mistake to say, this is bad, this sucks. And I feel it's correct to say, I don't like this. This doesn't work on me. I bounced off this. I just feel that it is, frankly, kind of immature to say this thing sucks when it's just that I don't like it. You know, the thing is the thing. It's just being itself. Maybe it works for other people, maybe it doesn't. Uh, but I feel like we're adults and we should be able to insert ourselves into these sentences and take a little ownership for our own feelings. So I think the adult thing to say when we're having an opinion about anything is to say, I don't like this. This didn't work on me. I bounced off this. And just say, that's what happened. It is what it is. I didn't respond well to it. Um, so that's just my advice for life. Be an adult, insert yourself into that sentence, take ownership for your feelings. Moving on. So, adventure mistakes in no particular order. Number one, no level information. Whatever the level is or should be for your adventure, whether it's a single level or a range, put that information on the title page at the very least. It should be in your product description if this is on a website, and maybe even on the cover. I personally don't put it on the cover because I don't like putting a lot of extra text, but it should absolutely be on the cover page, on the title page, right up high, right after the title of your adventure, your name, some credits. It should clearly say this is an adventure for X system level 5, whatever that is. So include that information, make that easy to find for the people who are reading about your adventure. Mistake number two, long introductions. I think I've talked about this before, that it doesn't matter what happened in your adventure world a year ago, 10 years ago, 1,000 years ago. Sure, it may be interesting in part of the world, but what really matters is what happened 5 minutes ago. What happened to set up the action that the players are about to interact with in your adventure space right now? That is what should be described to the GM. The GM should have a very clear idea of what just happened, why is this scenario the way it is, so that we can get playing. And if you have pages and pages explaining where everyone came from and how they felt, that's just taking up cycles and time and energy from the GM. That's probably not ever going to show up in play in any fashion. And I think it's a mistake to invest your time and energy in that versus what's happening right now. Mistake number three, second person language. You should not write in a way that tells the player what they do or what they say or what they experience in the space. So don't say in your writing, you see a door, or you open the door or you feel a sudden dread as you open the door. None of that's correct, in my opinion. You should let the players say and describe what they're thinking and feeling and acting. Your job is to describe what is there for them to interact with. So you say there is a door, the door is wooden, the door is locked, the door is squeaky. The statements of fact. That is your job, not to describe what you, the player, would be doing. Mistake number four, using emotions in your descriptions of the scene or setting or the location. Um, Again, our job is to describe the scene using the five senses. What do the players see, hear, smell, etc.? So the door is red and dripping and giggling and reeking of bile. These are objective facts that anyone in the room can perceive about the door. What we should not be saying is the door is scary or gross or creepy. Those are emotional reactions, and they don't actually tell us anything. The player, if that's all you said was there's a creepy door, they'll say, well, what makes it creepy? Because you've leapt to a conclusion. We don't want to leap to conclusions. We want to provide the facts and let the players come to their conclusions on their own based on the facts that we provide in the text. Mistake number 5, describing what used to be here. Our job in describing the adventure space is to describe what is here now for the players to interact with now. So we should not try to tell them or the GM what the room used to be. So we don't want to say, this used to be the guard barracks, where the guards played dice and ate ramen noodles. None of that's happening right now. So that's the incorrect information to be putting in the GM's head before they're about to talk to their players. So what we need to say is, in this room there are some old cots and some foot lockers and a couple of dice in the corner and some dirty bowls that have bits of old dried noodles on the edge. Then the players can go in, they can see all these items, they can interact with them, they can draw their own conclusions about what the room used to be. But we shouldn't be telling the GM what it used to be. Mistake number 6, a lack of interactivity. We should always be putting things in the room for the players to have something to do. That's why we all got together at game night, to do something. We don't want to walk into empty rooms unless there's a very specific and dramatic reason to do so. A room should be interesting for some reason. So a room should be a puzzle to solve, a frontier to explore, a person to confront, a scene to experience. Something should be happening, or the players should be able to make something happen in every room. And they don't need to be the same or even similar, but otherwise, by creating null spaces, empty rooms, you're eating up someone's game night by having the GM describe an empty room and having the players poke around at an empty room, nothing happens. That's 5 minutes of 6 people's lives where they didn't have fun. So I think it's our job as the writers to be injecting something, some tension, some excitement, some fun into that moment in their gaming life. Mistake number 7, a lack of environmental logic. Players are smart. They pay attention to details and they try to figure out what those details mean. They try to reach logical conclusions about the space. So if you say there is water dripping from this ceiling, they're going to wonder where that water's coming from. They're going to try to intuit or deduce what's going on in this space, why there's water, why they should care, because you put it there, so they think it's important. So if they get upstairs, they're going to expect to find a flooded bathroom or a koi pond or something. And if they get upstairs and there's no water, they're going to say, well, why was there water dripping through the floor, through the ceiling in the room below? What was the point of that? And now you've failed to reward them for being smart and paying attention to your text and engaging with your content. So it's important that your environment, that you need to think about it holistically, that it has environmental logic. And lastly, mistake number 8, lack of human logic. Players are smart, again, or still, and they know how people work, and your NPCs are people. So your NPCs need to make sense as people. So the villain needs to be doing the bad thing for some logical reason. Even if it's a simple or obvious reason, they should have a reason. Your NPCs, if you describe them as hating something or fearing something or wanting something, there should be a simple logical reason for why they're doing that. There's a saying that I'm undoubtedly about to get wrong, that people can accept a fantasy character who can fly, which is totally impossible. They cannot accept a character who kisses someone after getting punched in the face, because that's not realistic. We know how people act realistically. So people can fly all they want, but they also need to behave in human fashion. Otherwise, you're going to confuse the players. They're going to get disengaged with your content. They're going to say, well, this doesn't make sense. They're going to pull back. It's not going to work on them. And we want this to work on everyone. So we need to write NPCs that make sense. And I think that's all the common mistakes that I have to describe for you tonight. So good luck out there.